Good evening and welcome to the program Transforming Agriculture in Nigeria, a program sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to keep you up to date with happenings in the agricultural sector and the efforts of government and other stakeholders to maximize the potentials of agriculture for food security, job and wealth creation, as well as economic diversification. In December 2016, President Muhammadu Buhari approved the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative to enhance local production of fertilizer in Nigeria. Alu Fertilizer is one of the fertilizer blending companies that keyed into the initiative. We shall be looking at the operations of this fertilizer blending company and what it has been able to achieve. I am your host, Gabriel Ojile. Keep watching.
That will provide the necessary policy direction that will truly position agriculture as the mainstay of our economy.
The federal government is removing obstacles and offering opportunities for self-employment, wealth creation, and food security in the Nigeria's agricultural sector.
Think farming, think agriculture.
Watch Transforming Agriculture in Nigeria, showing on NTA Fridays at 8:30 p.m.
The program starts with news around and about Nigeria's agricultural sector. In our diary tonight, federal government launches strategic plan to eliminate rabies by 2030. Also, President Buhari happy with the impact of agriculture in job creation. Details after this short break. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed satisfaction with the successes recorded in the agricultural sector in the area of job creation for millions of Nigerians. The president stated this in his national broadcast to mark the nation's 62nd Independence Day anniversary. The president said that his administration has prioritized the agricultural sector through a series of incentives to micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises, and this, he said, has resulted in creating millions of jobs across the country. The president added that the Anchor Borrowers program created by the Central Bank of Nigeria has significantly enhanced the nation's drive towards self-sufficiency in food production, at the same time making farming attractive. In a bid to eliminate the danger of rabies, the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, in collaboration with other stakeholders, launched a national strategic plan for the elimination of dog-mediated human rabies by the year 2030. Speaking at the launching, which took place at the State House in Abuja, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, Ns. Afolabi Umahihi, who was represented by the Director, Agricultural Mechanization and Climate Change Management, Shehu Tijani Bello, stated that the document will be a guide for the prevention, control, and elimination of rabies and other transboundary diseases.
I'm happy to inform you that because of the public health insignificance of rabies, the ministry at the last National Council on Agriculture and Rural Development recently held in Jos approved the establishment and implementation of a national elimination program for rabies in Nigeria. Therefore, this document will appropriately serve as a guide for the implementation of the national elimination program for rabies in Nigeria.
Other stakeholders at the occasion advocated for sensitization, enforcement, and funding to ensure the success of the program.
1 hectare of land, the production cost we spend not more than 250 per hectare. And on that 1 hectare, we were able to see 35 to 40 metric tons per hectare. 1 metric ton of cassava per hectare is 50,000. If you realize 35 tons of cassava per hectare and you sell it each ton 50,000, that 50,000 multiplied by 35.
Fertilizer is a key agricultural input necessary for a good harvest. This explains why there is a high demand for fertilizer by farmers. To meet this demand, the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative on fertilizer was birthed in 2016, a development that led to the emergence of private fertilizer companies. Tonight on the program, we are focusing on one of such companies, Alu Fertilizer Blending Plant in Jigawa State. It benefited from the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative and has been part and parcel of the success story of the PFI program. Keep watching.
Fertilizer is a chemical or natural substance added to soil to increase its fertility. Fertilizer increases the yield of crops and ensures bumper harvest by farmers. The fertilizer mostly used by farmers in Nigeria is the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium (NPK), a high nutrient-based fertilizer. In order to stop the importation of NPK fertilizer and boost local production, the federal government introduced the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative (PFI). Since the commencement of the PFI in 2017, many fertilizer blending plants have emerged and moribund ones revamped. This is Alu Fertilizer Blending Plant, a subsidiary of Malam Alu Agro-Allied Company located in Birnin Kudu, local government area of Jigawa State. It is one of the fertilizer blending plants that was established as a result of the encouragement and enabling environment created by the federal government through the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative of the present administration.
This government of Muhammadu Buhari that propelled me personally to go into that, because the government came about with Presidential Fertilizer Initiative that encourages investors to come and set up plants where the government will import the raw materials, give to the blenders at good rates, until recently when the whole world fertilizer production has gone haywire. But at least the government decided in its own wisdom to encourage, because back in the days fertilizers were imported and there's a lot of pilferation, a lot of fake fertilizer and so on. So the government came up with that initiative. We keyed in, and we thank God that fertilizer plant in the farm probably is the money spinner that we have.
Oh, why not?
Alu Fertilizer is equipped with modern technology to ensure quality production of fertilizer, as operations of the factory is automated from this control room. Usam Kifani, the plant operator, tells us the advantage of the automated technology over the manual operation.
Because this one, you can preset what you want, you can set what you want, and you don't really need a human control. Once you set everything, you can just relax and it will take over. Once the limit reaches, it stops by itself. If any of the materials cuts or finishes before the others, it will automatically stop production.
Another advantage of the automated technology of this fertilizer blending plant is the accurate measurement of materials used for quality fertilizer production.
We will start by activating the conveyor belts and the scale that measures the as you can see, the conveyors have all started. They are being indicated here on the screen. It's a touch screen, you understand? And these are our formulas, our potassium, urea, limestone, and NPK. Then this is where we set the ratio. You can come in and see it. The ratio at which we want, you understand? 4.8, 6.3, 8.10, and 10.0. You know, we use 4 raw materials right now, but we have 6 heads. But any given time, we always use 4. So now I should start. Okay, so now we'll start dispensing the materials. Once we dispense the materials, they will all flow at the rates at which they are set. Then the conveyor will transport them to the mixer. The mixer's job is to mix them all together so that they will be evenly mixed. Then the last conveyor will take them to the bagging section, where they will be scaled and bagged accordingly.
Alu Fertilizer Blending Plant has the capacity to produce 40 metric tons of fertilizer per hour, and it produces for at least 8 hours per day.
We normally work from Monday to Saturday. At times, based on the demand, we normally work on shifting base. We can have a morning shift and we can have a night shift. So each one of the shifts, we normally work for minimum of 8 hours. So now in an hour capacity, we are producing 40 metric tons of NPK fertilizer here in Alu Fertilizer. So when you look at the number, 40 metric tons by 8, you can see that at least we are producing 320 metric tons in a shift.
The sources of raw materials for this massive production underscores the involvement of the federal government. Through the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative, the company became fully functional as a blending plant.
It helps because it's a big deal for a company to go and source this kind of chemicals on its own. But federal governments make it more easier to source the chemicals and distribute it from 0.0 to 0.9. So all the facilitation, the logistics and everything was facilitated by the government initially. But now the system has changed. It's for the companies to go and outsource the chemicals on their own. So that program really helps in facilitating and bringing the fertilizer close to the farmers.
In fact, our company have benefited in the area of Presidential Fertilizer Initiative. That's whereby when we started a fertilizer blending plant in 2020, I think, the federal government provided us with the raw materials. That's MOP, we call it morate of potash, then the phosphorus and the urea. These been supplied by the federal government. I think for the first 2 years, the first year, the second year. Then from there, I think this year we have to buy. I think there is an review in the bureaucracy of fertilizer materials being released. So the government, I think, decided that each blending plant should purchase its own raw materials.
The supervisor speaks more on the nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, NPK, which is the type of fertilizer proven to have the nutrients needed in most parts of Nigeria.
This is NPK, and N will stand for the nitrogen, and P will stand for the phosphorus, and K will stand for the potassium. So it's based on what the land requires or demands. And the ratio here is the nitrogen has the highest ratio, that is the 20, and followed by the potassium and phosphorus has the 10-10 rationing in the formulation. So this is the federal government accepted formula all over the country, and this is what we are producing. But we can produce different rationing based on the request of the customer. But now this is the federal government generally accepted formula nationwide, and this is what we have, and this is what we are producing. And all lands in the whole regions in the country, this type of the NPK or this type of the formula can be applied, and it works 100% perfectly.
Some of the major reasons the federal government considered important in sourcing the raw materials for the blending plants include ensuring quality production of fertilizer within the country instead of the importation of finished products which allow for only limited check on the quality of the product. The initiative also helps the Fertilizer Producers and Suppliers Association of Nigeria, PEPSAN, to get the material at discounted prices as negotiated with the OCP of Morocco. This was part of the Memorandum of Understanding signed between Nigeria and Morocco. As a result of the PFI and the integrity of the company, quality is non-negotiable in the Alu Fertilizer Blending Plant.
In terms of fertilizer production, I think the government has done very well. But of course, no normal Nigerian factor, you see some other quack plants coming all over the place. So the government of Muhammadu Buhari propelled me to go into that because of the incentive that was put into fertilizer production. And thank God, to also I make bold to say, we probably have the best fertilizer in the country. That can be cross-checked from other places.
We don't compromise. We work based on standard because there are so many agencies that are looking after what we are doing on daily basis, weekly, monthly, quarterly. They normally used to come here and supervise what we are doing, and they will ensure that we work based on standard.
Alu Fertilizer Blending Plant serves two major purposes, which are production for use in the farm of the company and production for sale across the country.
The advantage it has in terms of our daily activities on the farm is that in the first, we have to raise, we have to look for fund to buy somewhere else, maybe in the town or somewhere else, which it will take us time to get that fertilizer. You know, fertilizer is a timely something. So now we should just put a request to the general manager and he approves. Then he releases the fertilizer on time for us to apply to our crops. This one is a great achievement. It helps a lot.
Despite the impact of the PFI and the proliferation of more fertilizer blending plants, the cost of fertilizer is still on the high side. What can governments do to address the situation?
Yeah, unfortunately, the government decided to start withdrawing from the subsidy. You know, back in the days, like two years ago, in fact, last year, fertilizer was sold at as low as 5,500. Now, somewhere along the line, the government decided to withdraw this incentive that was given to the blenders. And this also because of the problem in the world. I mean, like some of the materials imported for the fertilizer, because of foreign exchange all over the world. The war in Ukraine has not helped matters because there is problem of fertilizer all over the world. So the government needs to probably look again and come back with the subsidy to blenders so that the farmers can get these commodities probably much cheaper than what is going now. Because as of today, the government told us, blenders, that by the end of this year, they will probably completely withdraw the intervention in the fertilizer.
The program is transforming agriculture in Nigeria, and we have been discussing the Presidential Fertilizer Initiative and how it has enhanced local production of fertilizer. We are using Alu Fertilizer, which is one of the beneficiaries of the PFI. Stay tuned for the next segment as we look at the success of Alu Fertilizer Company in job and wealth creation.
Agriculture is the biggest employer of labor in Nigeria and across the globe. This is because a lot of people are involved in one aspect or the other across the value chain. A glimpse of Alu Fertilizer Blending Plant in Birnin Kudu area of Jigawa State is a testimony of the impact the company has made in the area of job creation.
Well, directly, which means probably those that are on our employment, maybe 200. But then indirectly, like there are times like now, the rainy season, when the fertilizer plant is operating like 24 hours, you find up to 1,000 people working there. You know, so depending on how much orders we have. And sometimes you will see up to 200 trailers waiting to either offload or to take in. So those times you have 2,000-3,000 people working directly on the farm, and which means multiply effect of 5,000 people. So, you know, so that's why I said a lot of people should come into this to help in employment generation in the country.
Interactions with staff at the various sections of the factory shows how the company has been a reliable source of livelihoods to the workers, and they remain grateful for the opportunities.
I was benefiting a lot.
I am benefiting a lot, and I have worked here for a year. Before, I did not have a motorcycle, but now I have a motorcycle. Now I'm also trying to build my house, and this work has helped me a lot because I have a family of 7. and I can help my family in many areas.
To bring something into reality like this, it is not an easy actually. So actually we appreciate him and we pray for Almighty Allah to guide him and protect him.
The experience and financial security the young men are getting in this company is yet another impact.
This company has helped me more than expected. Before we got here, we didn't have any experience in fertilizer production, but now we have it. We are being paid salaries as permanent staff, and we now have more experience since working in this factory.
We have a very experienced and qualitative staff here in Alu Fertilizer because our management, we have those who worked for the first 30 years in the fertilizer industry somewhere. And the company management decided to bring them in for them to be able to train the newly recruited staff. And now, as I speak to you, I'm one of the newly recruits in the last 2 years, and I can tell you now more about fertilizer, how it works, the operations, and so many things.
Apart from the immediate communities and those engaged directly in this company, the company has a marketing chain across the country that is touching the lives of quite a number of people.
This company, having its own fertilizer blending plant, is a great achievement. It helps the company and the people across the country, not even within Jigawa State or neighboring communities. It helps a lot because people from far away coming to purchase fertilizer, and our fertilizer is one of the best fertilizer in Nigeria.
The chain also includes the agro dealers who sell Alu fertilizer at the markets.
Alhamdulillah. I am grateful to God. We have recorded progress as a result of the establishment of this company. Our people who hitherto were outside the state in search of means of livelihood are now back home. For this, we are thankful to the Almighty. Secondly, farmers who sold their farmlands to facilitate the construction of the fertilizer plant benefited greatly from the amount paid to them.
We thank Malam Alu for establishing this plant because it has brought progress and prosperity. People now travel to this place to buy fertilizer because this particular fertilizer is most preferred.
What is the opinion of the farmers on the fertilizer produced locally in Nigeria? What is their experience in the use of this fertilizer? Our crew went into the hinterland to interact with farmers who are using the locally blended fertilizer. Let us hear from them in our next segment, Farmers Speak.
The fertilizer produce is what we use on our farms. We are grateful because the owner of the company has raised the fortunes of this town. May God bless him for what he has done. The country will be a better place if more people emulate what he is doing.
Alu Fertilizer Company is a good example of what government can achieve when there is private sector participation. Jobs are created, the economy thrives, and food security is better assured. This is the much we can take on today's episode of the program. Thank you for investing your time with us. Join us again, same time, same station next week. Good night and have a great weekend.